Hey y'all, it's Michael and it's Vlogtember day. Oh my gosh, I'm getting the days confused now because I'm filming some of these videos ahead. But anyways, today we're going to talk about two short story collections that I recently finished. And get ready because one of them I really did not like. And there goes the bird. Alright, the first book is At the Mouth of the River of Bees by Kids Johnson. Okay, this is the one I did not like. This is my first experience of reading of her works. It's basically a collection of short stories around like Japanese folklore and Japanese myths and legends and cultural like references and whatnot. Okay, there are some stories in here that I did quite enjoy, and come to find out, you can actually find a lot of these short stories online for free. One of them I did like is Ponies. This is about a group of girls and unicorns, and it gets incredibly violent and messy. I loved it because it was just what it was saying, like thematic wise. I thought it was strong in that regard. There were some that I thought was pretty okay, like it didn't surprise me or anything, or it was just like, oh, okay. It was my wife reincarnated as a solitary exposition on the flaws in my wife's character, the nature of the bird, the possible causes, the final the disposition. That's the title of the story. This one I did like because compared to the other short stories, I thought her writing style and her prose on this one was more effective just because she is writing about someone in a different time and stylistically different. I also did like Fox Magic. This one was pretty good too. This one is about, it was like a folklore-ish based on an ancient Japanese, it's like ancient Japanese folklore about a woman falling in love like foxes, because foxes in Japanese myths and legends are really important. I mean, Pokemon has like a whole Pokemon has a Pokemon called Vulpix and Ninetales, and it's about like fox foxes in the Japanese culture. It's really important to them. So let me tell you why I didn't like this short story collection. So I didn't like this short story collection because I felt like first off, as a collection all over the place, it was all over the place. The short story collections that I am reading, or like I thought was pretty cohesive wise, is that there is something stringing all of these short stories together thematically wise. And here it was just like more about, it was like using the Japanese culture as inspiration, because I don't think she is Japanese. So I think she just used like Japanese folklore and myths and legends as the starting point. For me, it really felt like all over the place. Like it was just like so many ideas going in and forth. So as I mentioned before, one of this short story is called Spar. Now this short story collection is basically tentacle hentai. So hentai is essentially anime porn. They show everything body-wise, like breast and you know, pee-pees and wee-wees and vaginas. Okay, so here's the thing, the difference between like hentai and what anime fans call fan service. So fan service usually has it's more of the idolization. Like, yes, the girls will get naked, but it's never fully initiated. Like the sex is never fully initiated. Some animes that I do like have fan service. The difference between like fan service anime and like a hentai always, like I'm not joking, always has this undertone of rape. A lot of the times it's never consensual, and I personally don't like it. It's just a personal thing for me because it always makes me feel awkward. First off, it's a thing not for me. And then now y'all know, okay, so the Japanese, and someone left a comment in my previous video talking about the fascination of the Japanese with tentacles, and I was like, oh yeah, that was exactly my thought. And it's just one of those things that I don't think I'll ever fully understand, like, because I am not Japanese. The tentacle hentai is always like, it's a complete turn off to me. I just don't like it. I just don't like the image of all these tentacles entering all your orifices, like your mouth, your nose, your ears, your vagina, your anus. Like, it's just too much for me. Like, I can't. That's probably why I was turned off by Food Wars in the beginning. I was like, I seriously cannot do this. But I just didn't like that story at all because it has a lot of the things I personally just don't like. And the main reason why I didn't like a lot of these is because the writing styles for some was just so tedious. There's this one on here from The Cat Who Walked 1,000 Miles, and it's one of the longest short stories on here. The other one is The Man Who Bridged the Mist. No, that one wasn't that bad. I actually thought, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, after the thing was the cat who walked 1,000 miles annoyed me so much because of the writing, and then after this, I was like, I was just annoyed the whole time reading it, and I'm gonna tell you why. In her writing for this short story, she uses a lot of pronouns of the she and her to describe the cat. Describing this pussy, she's using these pronouns, she and her, and she uses it so much. It I want to do the word count on how much she used she and her, because if I was a professor, I would have been like circle, 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 circle. Now, let me just say this. A lot of Japanese translated works will do this style. They use a lot in Japanese literature, especially well in the translated ones. They do. I guess you would be like, instead of like overtelling the story, you would undertell the story to give this hint of like calmness and melancholy. So it's very sparse in the way that it's translated, because Japanese when you're translating it, it's easy. It's not easy, but it's easy in the way that when you translate it, words can literally mean what they mean. A lot of the times when you're translating it to English, it's more of the like connotations and the like how people emote the emotion, like verse like emote the word. I have seen it done well before. Murakami's translators does this well, in my opinion. They know how to translate. I probably because they've been the translators for his work. They've known him for so long, but they know how to translate his works because it for me when I'm reading Murakami, I feel as though like yes, they're doing this undertelling. If you understand like very sparse choice of words, but it's not too much. And I'm gonna give you an example of this. So she didn't see everyone. She didn't fall asleep the way kittens do, suddenly at all and at once. And whenever they happened to be, she had been so afraid during the earthquake that she fell asleep lying flat on a broad bench with her claws sunk into the bark. When she woke up with her whiskers, the sun was lower in the sky. What had awakened her? The air had a new smell, bitter and unpleasant. She wrinkled her nose and sneezed. She crept along a branch she crept along a branch until she saw out past the needle's tray and over the garden's wall. The city was on fire. So maybe I was like, ma'am. So here's another example. And this is a long one too. At first, she stayed in the bush beside the road and hid whenever anything approached. And there was always something. People crowded the Tagaido, peasants and carpenters, and charcoal sellers, monks and nurses. There were carts and wagons, honking geese, and quacking ducks. She saw a man on horseback and a very small boy leading a giant black ox by a ring throughout its nose. Everyone except the ox seemed in a hurry to go somewhere and then get back from there just as fast as they could. So in that sentence, that's not bad. But the next sentence, she stayed out of their way until she realized that no one had paid any attention to her. Not since the guard and the monk back at Rajo Gate. Even if they did notice her, everyone was too busy to bother with her. Well, everyone except dogs anyway, and she knew what to do about dogs. Make herself look large and then get out of reach. Like, the use of she and her throughout the, and this is one of the longest short stories in the collection. So this constant use, I was like, ma'am, like, no, use something else because, like, it's like, girl, sentence variation. Come on, like it annoyed me so much. And at one point, that's all I kept seeing was like she and her. Like it's just constant pronoun, 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 pronoun. And I was like, why don't you just say the cat? We're already in third person. Just say the cat, the pussy, the kitten, and then vary it around. You know, start off with a clause instead of. Oh, that's the thing too. A lot of these sentences start off with a subject, and I was like, oh, you know what? It just infuriates that, and I think it just might be like a personal taste for me. But I also think this is like a thing too. I also think at that time, as I was reading this collection, I was reading Autumn by Ali Smith, and which you should read. And in that book, like Smith is like she ain't fucking around. Like she has control of her language. She is using variations. She's messing the way the sentence is structured. And I'm like, yes, come on. And here I was like, oh my god, I can't. And then there was this one story. I was like, girl, you're doing the most. And that's Story Kit. This one, I was like, okay, that's too much. I was like, bring it back. Bring it back. So I just realized this is not a review. So yeah, I did. To suffice it to say, I did not like this short story collection. I just was. It's a no for me. Luckily, the next one I was like, oh my god, thank God I liked it. And that's A Guide to Being Born by Ramona Asubel. These short stories have this one thing that like it is cohesively holding them together. You can read these individually and you still will get some sort of connection, especially about like birth and the process of getting pregnant and stuff like that. One was called Chest of Drawers. Oh, this one was really cool. So this is about Ben, whose wife is pregnant. This was really interesting because Ben all of a sudden starts to develop like drawers within his chest. So like you could like within his chest right here, he could open it and like put stuff in the drawers. And what I love most about this short story is this look at how, because in the beginning we see that all the attention is going to his wife, which makes sense because she is pregnant. But then there's this slight shift of more attention on Ben because of these chest drawers. And I was like, wow, that's so cool, because I thought it was a really interesting concept. Just because from personal experience, when my sister was pregnant, all the attention was on her. And so I was like, oh, this is relatable. But I really liked it. There was another one in here that I really enjoyed too. It's called Atria. This is about this character named Hazel, who is in high school and she gets raped. And the way that the story unfolds and how you see Hazel as this really interesting character, and some of the language used here, I was like, and the prose, I was like, oh my god. Even the other one was so bizarre too. Like even this one called Poppy Seed. This story is about a couple who has a disabled baby, and it's really interesting because the ending caught me completely off guard. I was like, what? And a lot of these short stories have this feeling of like magical and just like out of this world. I quite enjoyed it. The feeling that a lot of these gave me. Some of them I just thought was okay, but I thought it was consistent in the way that I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. I see and I get it. So yeah, I liked it. I gave it 3.5. I rated it up to 4 stars on Goodreads. So if you read any of those short story collections, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts, especially on At the Mouth of the River of the Bees. Until then, I'll see you guys so later. Bye.
Girl, you should wear a name tag.